understand the people, you must know their literature. To know their literature, you must also know their culture. You can never truly understand the people if you don't understand their literature and what it means to them. Now, this is why on this edition of The Situation Right Now, we bring you a special, literally, interview where we are going to be talking about books, where we're going to be talking about literature that shapes the Zimbabwe political, social, and economic space. Now, join me after this break on The Situation Right Now, as we talk about books, literature, politics. Me, your host as usual, Dara Blessed Mhlang. Welcome back to The Situation Right Now with me, your host as usual, Dara Blessed Mhlanga, and we are talking books. Now, in the studio today, we're going to be discussing a book that is apt at this time where we have just seen the gold mafia, where we have just read the chrome cartel. And in my hands, I'm holding this book, which talks to the Zimbabwean political, social, and economic landscape, the poor man's cartel. So poor men also have a cartel. This book is by Munyaradzi Savanu, and I am joined by Munyaradzi Savanu to be able to discuss this, the poor man's cartel. Now, welcome and thank you very much for joining me, Munyaradzi.
Thank you, Dara. Thank you for having me.
Your middle name, I struggled to read it.
Angero, it's Angero, which means angel or Mutuma. Angero Mutuma.
Angero. Munyaradzi Angero. Now, Munyaradzi, let's just get into this book. Is a book laden with political satire, with political innuendos, and also talks to the poor man's struggles, particularly in Zimbabwe. Now, I want to hear from you what inspired this poor man's cartel.
Okay, being somebody who was born in post-colonial Zimbabwe, I can count myself amongst the peasants in Zimbabwe. I grew up in the rural areas. I attended my primary school at Kanukangwe Primary School, private bag 2016 Glendale, that is in Chiweshe, and my secondary school at Kakora Secondary School, private bag 2014 Glendale. That tells you about my peasantry, my peasant upbringing. So I can't divorce my writings from my own upbringing as a peasant in Zimbabwe. My struggles, my triumphs, everything is embedded within that peasant, humble upbringing.
Let's talk about the contents of the book. What should the reader expect when they hold that book and read it?
Okay, from the title itself, I think it's self-explanatory. When you read the word cartel, you want to associate that word is associated with the rich criminals, those that you cannot control, those that own the means of production, those that occupy the highest offices in any given piece of land or whatever or area. So now we are taking that same word and we are giving it to the poor to say, no, you also are powerful. The peasants are also powerful. Wherever you go, I think there is power in numbers. There is power in money, there is power in resources, but people don't also underestimate the power of numbers. So there is power in numbers. That's why we say the poor man's cartel. So when a person reads the book, you should also be able to identify where that particular person stands and the power that is within that particular person. No one is powerless in our society. Everyone is powerful. We just need to realize that we are powerful, and as we realize that we are powerful, we accept that we are powerful, and as we accept that we are powerful, we also have to come up with workable solutions to overcome whatever predicament that we may be in, especially in the 21st century, especially in Africa.
I just want to look at what Joyce Ngwenya wrote about this book. He says that yet if we are looking for an easy way out of boredom, the poor man's cartel is the wrong end of the train. It's hectic in here. How Angelo manages to extract from the reader anger against authoritarian rule, both by religious insinuations and the state. It's akin to sitting in a theater on fire and watching a box office record breaker. Now, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Extracting anger against authoritarian rule.
I think if you study particularly the African narrative, you see words like dictatorship, authoritarianism, autocracy, words like that shaping our politics. So when you read the Poor Man's Cartel, okay, let me talk about the poor people first. Then I go to the Poor Man's Cartel. The poor people, number one, they think that they are powerless. As they think that they are powerless, number two, they think that they are a subdued generation of people. Then, number three, they think that their duty is to sit back, relax, and watch as their inheritance is being robbed away by the powerful few. So now when you read the Poor Man's Cartel, you now begin to see the power that is within the poor people themselves. Number two, the book also empowers them to say, you are fighting against somebody who has a gun, who owns a gun, somebody who owns money, somebody who owns resources, and you have nothing. Don't ever think or end up believing that you also are powerless to the extent that you cannot, you cannot match the power that is in a gun, that is within gunpowder or whatever that there is. So you can also stand up for your rights and fight, and at the end of the day, triumph and redefine your own trajectory, redefine your own narrative, and rewrite your own story through the power that is within you. If you come together as poor people, then you can find a common solution to the common problem.
But let us just look at the contemporary Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Are poor people, as you put it, the peasant, able to find that power and galvanize? Or they are controlled more by free seed and free millennial?
Now I'm taking you back to the Poor Man's Cartel. Taking you back to the Poor Man's Cartel. You will see that most of the times, poor people are silenced by freebies, by trinkets. You see some are bribed, maybe by cars, some by dirty coins, and they go mum, they go silent about the issues that matter most in life. Those that are powerful, those that are the voices of the voiceless, but still poor, but still poor. Sometimes they are bribed, and they become, allow me to say, the not puppies per se, the pawns of the powerful few. So in the Poor Man's Cartel, expect to see poor people being conscientized. That's my own word. Being conscientized, and there is a serious consciousness whereby the poor people are now realizing, gentlemen, we have been used. Whether I've been given sugar, but I'm being used still. Whether I've been given chains to chain another person. Something that I'm not realizing here is that by chaining another person, I'm also oppressed. This particular person is also trying to free me. So these chains have been given to me by the oppressor to oppress another person who is also who has been oppressed, who is trying also to free me from my own chains. So you can be free, but also in chains, and you go ahead to chain another person who is trying to free you. So this book is now saying, gentlemen, perchance you are the one who is free but in chains, or you're the one who is in chains but trying to free the one who is also not in chains, or is not in chains, the one who has chained you. Let's come together and free ourselves genuinely. That's the poor man's cartel.
Your book is laden by a lot of amazing names. Mubazewanu is one of those characters that I've just picked up from Muponda Hama.
Mm-hmm.
What inspires these characters? What inspires these names?
You see, names in the African context, names are proverbial. Names are prophetic. Names carry a deeper meaning. Names are divine in the African context. So I'm taking it from the ancient past, whereby people would name their children after a present predicament. Like, let me say, my day, Muchanyara, right? Teacher Sununguka. Even if you go into the liberation struggle, you'd see some other, some names like Muchapondo, right? Teacher Sununguka, Teacher Itora, Teacher Tonga, something like that. So if you read the Poor Man's Cartel, you also see some names that predict, right, a better outcome. Some they portray the present predicament, like Mubashivamwe, Muraramane Zokuba, Mugabirwa, Rambai. Some names are also empowering people to deny some things that are also in existence at that particular time, but not fair and just, right? Some names are also saying, of course you are rich, we are seeing you are rich, but whatever you have amassed is as a result of what? Of looting. So you are a Mubashivamwe per se. So these names are also portraying the existing predicament or situation, especially in that narrative of the Poor Man's Cartel.
So in present day Zimbabwe, who would be Mubazewanu?
I will leave it to the reader. I will leave it to the reader. And you see, if somebody reads, or maybe you read it, Jara, and you feel like you are Mubazewanu, if the shoe fits, I'm quoting Julius Malema, if the shoe fits, please wear it. And if you're a Mubazewanu, please don't stop stealing other people's property, stop stealing other people's destiny, stop stealing other people's posterity, stop stealing other people's, stop stealing gold, stop stealing lithium, stop stealing the land, other people's land, the means of production, in short.
Is this, in your view, happening in this country, that people's destiny is being stolen?
Literature is prophetic. And sometimes a prophet is given a dream, maybe a vision, or maybe he's in meditation, maybe he's doing what is called management by walking around. But the book cuts across divide. I may say, this is happening here, maybe it's not happening. I may say, this is not happening here, but maybe it's happening. So you see, to some it's happening, to some it's not happening. That's why somebody said, if the story of the jungle is written by the lion, right? What we only see is the lion's experiences and exploits and whatever. But if the story of the jungle is also written by the bushback, we also see the story from the bushback's end. So this book, the reader will tell whether it's happening here or not. But if it's happening, then the book also empowers that particular reader to overcome.
But I want us to be direct.
Yes.
Your dedication is to advocate Thabani Mpofu for his exemplary bravery and courage in the fight for justice and equality.
You see, I'm not a lawyer, but I respect that particular character. I've been have been following up on him. I've been stalking him for quite, for quite some time.
So it is. So it would not be far-fetched
Yes.
that this book is driven from inspiration by events that are happening in this country.
Oh, yeah, it's not far-fetched. Yes, allow me to say that. Allow me to say it's not far-fetched. When it comes to that character that you have read, it's not far-fetched. Because I've seen him standing on behalf of the voiceless, not only in political circles, not only in judicial circles, but also in religious circles. Go check his tweets. Go check even his status, his WhatsApp status. He says a fortune favors the daring, right? I've also had some one-on-ones with him. I've heard him speak. He is somebody who speaks what he is. Who says what he speaks, or who speaks what he does, rather. He is a Peter who walks the talk, according to me, because I've been studying him, his character, his way of doing things. He is somebody who doesn't keep quiet to wrong. He is somebody who doesn't condone wrong and bad, especially in the land. He's a character that I respect. That's why I dedicated that book to him. And I love that particular statement where he says, fortune favors the daring.
So in the event that we agree,
Yes.
and it is trite that we do agree,
Yes.
that your book is therefore driven from real events that are happening in this country.
Oh, allow me to say, Dara, God, I'm now going to the prophetic. God does not give you a vision if these things are not happening. God will never inspire a writer to write a book out of the blues. It means these things are happening where we don't know, but God knows. And the people who actually, the proper people who actually identify with the book, whether they are Zimbabweans, whether they are Zambians, whether they are South Africans, but they will identify with the poor man's cartel.
Here, Joyce Ngwenya writes, if you, like me, despise institutional dictatorship with a passion, and you find organized state capture and corruption distasteful, you are in the right side of dignified Angero literary chaos. Is your literature an attempt to cause chaos?
Allow me to respond in this manner.
I will allow you.
Oh yes, allow me to respond in this manner. Literature is supposed to bring peace. But
peace can be brought through chaos.
Yes, in the scientific world, those that did evolution, they will say order came out of chaos. Sometimes, for you to feel good, especially when you're a boy, for you to feel good and to feel healed, somebody has to come and make sure kuti washinwa motarera rinorwadza mota kushina saka panotoda vanhu vanotonyatsoshina kutoita violence up until zviri mukati zhazha whatsoever is within that boil comes out and you are safe and you are now enjoying. So yes, sometimes order can come out of chaos.
And you are trying.
So at the end of the day, what we want is peace. And peace not for a selected few, but peace for everyone. What we want at the end of the day is joy. Joy not for a selected few, but joy for everyone. What we want at the end of the day is prosperity. Not for a selected few, but for everyone. This battle is inclusive in nature. But at the end of the day, joy has to visit everyone's place.
Is that possible, to have the visitor as joy in everyone's home?
It is very possible. It is very, very possible. For joy not to just become a visitor, but at the end of the day, to become the host in everyone's home, whilst the residents become the guests. Joy is serving them. Yes, it can become the host.
As a person who grew up in rural Zimbabwe,
yes,
Chiweshe to be particular.
To be particular, yes.
Where we have seen the greats coming from Chiweshe who have discovered diesel in a mountain in Chinoy.
Oh yeah.
What do you think it would take as a writer, as a literal, as a person who seeks to bring to life words through writing. What do you think needs to happen for us as Zimbabweans to get to that utopia that you talk about?
Okay, Dara, let me tell you my upbringing. I think in most of my literature, you also interact with it. It's common to interact with my experiences as in some parts of my books. As I was growing up, I grew up in my father passed away when I was 6, and my mother passed away when I was 8. So I was forced to stay with my grandparents in Chwesha. I grew up with my grandparents, and I still remember we were about 18 boys. Why boys? Because I still remember us eating from the same dish. It was not a plate, it was a dish. So as we're eating from the same, I was the youngest, we were 18 boys, right? And we used to wait for each other. As we waited for each other to eat, right? We used to, sometimes we were pegged in groups of 6, 7. We shared the same blanket, right? I prefer us going back to that, I can't call it primitive era. But if we go back to that mentality, to that ideology, whereby we used to wait for each other, right? To eat together, whereby when a bean fell to the ground, we could pick it up, split it amongst ourselves equally, distribute it equally, and eat together, right? Whereby the cake, the national cake, is brought here. I'm now in the postmodern era. The national cake is shared equally amongst the nationals, the citizens. We can bring about the country that we want. It is only a matter of mentality, a matter of ideology.
You're advocating for communism, are
you? You may call it communism, some may call it socialism, but I want to call it equality or egalitarianism.
We're never equal. And we can never equally share resources as a nation. Or should we?
Okay, now let me take you back to the war. There is a certain man in this book who is called Mudara Shato. He has a teaching that he teaches the readers of the book, the readers of the Poor Man's Cartel, where he says, when we went to the war, when we went to fight for liberation, we were fighting for equality. When we went to fight in the bush, we were together. When we went to fight in the bush, we had a philosophy whereby we were to cover each other's back. We were equal back then, expecting to be equal in a post-colonial Zimbabwe. That's the country that is in the Poor Man's Cartel. So these were the expectations as people went into to fight the war that is in the Poor Man's Cartel. So those expectations have to be fulfilled even in a post-colonial era. So people have to fight, people have to make sure they try to come up with philosophies, ideologies that make sure that the founding philosophies of the liberation struggle have been attained.
Funny enough, you talk about Mudara Shato. In your book, Mudara Shato was only respected at death.
That is what usually happens. That is what usually happens. People have a tendency of throwing roses, bringing roses. People have a tendency of making sure that they bring expensive tombstones to make sure they have a tendency of venerating a person when that particular person dies. And that person is given a hero status in death, while in life he was actually a villain. While in life he was actually a pauper. While in life he was actually living a vagrant life. So this is happening in the Poor Man's Cartel, this book, whereby people neglect their soldiers, whereby people, because of greed and selfishness, they try to amass everything, including God himself. If you read the Poor Man's Cartel, they'll say these people amassed wealth that was enough for them to buy even God, the creator of the universe himself. But at the end of the day, what did they do? They neglected their fellow soldiers, their fellow comrades whom they suffered together with in the bush. But at the end of the day, they ended up, preaching and being sanctified, venerated at death.
So what are you saying about Bonham Gabe's primitive accumulation of wealth?
I'm still studying that one. But I'm also saying in the poor man's cartel, it is criminal. It is criminal for one to come and get the cake and eat it by him or herself when the cake is for everyone. It's criminal. I'm not talking about Bonham Gabe, but I'm saying it is criminal for a cake that we fought together for you to come and personalize it. It's not proper. It's unjust.
Someone says power is cyclical. Power is a web. It changes. There's no straight line to power. Do you believe that?
Right. I think you can explain deeper. What do you mean by a straight line to power?
There is no defined lines of power like the president to the people. Power is cyclical. It radiates. It changes. Looking at your poor man's cartel, you have taken power from the elite.
Allow me to say power has always belonged to the masses. Why do I say so? This is also according to the poor man's cartel. Power has always belonged to the masses. But now, the masses have been dragged. The masses are now a sleeping volcano. They can't realize anymore that they are powerful. So this is more like giving power back to the owners of power. If we say the president is one.
But power can't reside in one place, is it not? Because at one point, the masses rely on their president, who they have deposited power on, to act on their behalf.
What if the president goes against the masses?
Haven't we seen it happening?
What if the president is anti-masses in nature?
Haven't we seen it happen?
So, power goes back to the... You see, the president is one.
But can hold power.
Yeah, the president is one. And the masses are millions, if not billions of people. They are millions. So we can't say one person can overpower millions. That's why we are saying there is power in numbers. Power in numbers. And power to the people. Power from the people. Power through the people. Power by the people. So the poor masses have got the power that resides in them. So whenever they want, right? Whenever they want either to impose or depose, they can do so at any time. So power resides within the poor masses. That's why we say the poor man's cartel. The all-powerful cartel. They are more powerful than guns. They are more powerful than... Because even those ones that hold the guns, right? They're also poor. Power over handcuffs. Because those ones that are cuffing people, they're also poor, right? Power over the judicial. Because those ones that are also the magistrates, judges, and whosoever, chief magistrates, they're also poor. So they should be part of the cartel.
So who is rich?
Who is what?
Who is rich?
Who is rich? The poor people are rich, but they have not realized it.
Now tell me, Munyana, you've written other books.
Yes.
Maybe if you could just talk to us about these other books.
The first book, my first official book, was the Nationalism Gospels. It was this one. This one is not a novel. This one is a manuscript. It was actually forwarded by Advocate Tabani Mpofu. Right? This one is a manuscript. This one speaks about justice for all. That's my ideology. Justice for all. Speaks about egalitarianism. It speaks about, nationalism gospels. It speaks about equal and fair shares at the national cake. Nationalism gospels speaks about what we need to do if the state has been captured, the nation has been captured, institutions have been captured. This nationalism gospels speaks about unity. This nationalism gospel speaks about the atrocities of the missionaries, because a lot of people, because I wrote it specifically from a biblical perspective. I did theology. That's my first degree. I did theology. So I was looking at the Bible, because people have used the Bible actually to oppress the poor, to say it is God who actually thrones people. People have used this book to silence, people who subscribe in Christianity, to say actually God wants this. But the Bible doesn't say so. So I was actually liberating people from the yoke, from the chains that they have been given, that they have been subjected to by hungry and greedy politicians. That was my first book. The second one is called The Era of the African Child. I was a chaplain for 7 years. I was a chaplain. So this one speaks about how to parent an African child in the 21st century. I was using my experiences, how I used to assist the young from from about 5 years up to some 18, 20, 21 years. I was dealing with the youth. So I wrote this as a manual for the parents on how to deal with their children, especially in the 21st century. That's the era of the African child. And then my third book, which was my first published novel, it was called The Price of Sugar. As you can see from the cover page, this young man is strong, right? This young man is able to produce sugar. He has produced this sugar. But there's another person who has got the strength to come up with chains and chain this young man, to lock this young man so that he doesn't enjoy what he has worked for, what he has produced. That's the price of sugar. So what then is the price of sugar? Read The Price of Sugar. Then my fourth book, obviously, is The Poor Man's Cartel, the book that we are just about to launch, the book that empowers the poor people, the book that speaks about the power that the poor people has, the book that speaks to the conscience, that resurrects the poor person who is powerful, the poor person who is courageous, the courage of the poor person, the determination of the poor person, the desire, the will of the poor person, and then, so that the poor person drives with passion, integrity, and determination towards destiny, whereby we will also enjoy together and eat together from the national table as we feast on the national cake together.
Now just tell me about the launch.
Okay, the launch is on the 11th of May in the year of our Lord 2023 or 2023 at Theatre in the Park. It will be a Thursday, starting at 5 p.m. up to 8 p.m. And we invited Harare 1, the mayor of Harare, Jacob Mafume, to come and launch this book. And those the people who will be assisting him, of course, there is my good friend, mentor, and mischievous brother, Joyce Ngwenya, of course, and then advocate Gina Mabwe. Then performing artists, we have Maskiri and many more budding artists. Since this is a work of art, we just said, let's come and celebrate this together and launch this thing together. I'm also inviting you, Dara, to come and be part of the family that will be enjoying this.
Do you have ribbons? I want to cut ribbons.
Oh, of course, yeah, but that is another discussion for another day. But I think this is worth celebrating. Yeah, I think this is worth a ribbon. I think we'll bring some ribbons other than the ribbons that we have seen, but I think this one is better.
Amazing. No, thank you very much, Mnyaradzi, for coming through. But just as parting shots, I will read from the forward from Joyce Ngwenya, and he says here, you see, Africa's ruling elite, snobs, just mistakenly assume the poor man has no strength anymore to resist state-inspired oppression.
Mm-hmm.
Poor people also have role models. And when their heroes rally them against their oppressors, they become this formidable cartel that is not only invisible, but also indivisible,
mm-hmm.
ready to explode when least expected. Poor people, remember, I'm learning this from Angelo, are better listeners than the ruling elite because they are not anthesized with idiotic self-righteousness. people are not afraid, poor people are not afraid of prison since they already have a lifetime companionship with lice, cockroaches, and hunger. Better still, they're even prepared to die in defense of what they believe in, since they have nothing more to lose. Angero's kusikufang ndekupi analogy. Most important, poor people have tsunamic critical masses that can strike when least expected. All this I have gleaned from the poor man's cartel. Where would they get this if they wanted it?
It will be on Amazon, and there is another bookshop called Lifestyle Books by Eastgate. And currently, we are also talking to Inov bookshops if they can afford us maybe a portion. But I think on Amazon, that one is a given. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mnyaradzi, and wishing you the best as you continue with your literal works. I see your sense of fashion.
Oh yeah. Some people say he looks like Samora Machel. Some people say he looks like Josiah Tongo Gara. But I think I have a serious relationship with this type of dressing.
Yeah, because the first time I met you, you were wearing different color, but just almost the same.
Oh yeah. I think it says a lot about the character himself. He believes in the poor man's power and courage.
Poor people, join me again in next episode. I'm sure you're not very poor not to tune in to Heart and Soul TV and radio and watch the greatest offerings that we give you, the discussions that turn the nation and allow citizens to contribute to the building of a better future. Now, this is the situation right now with me, your host as usual, and always Dara Blessed Mhlanga. And thank you for choosing us as your station of choice.